Yep.
Stop filming it. Oh my God, it's on fire.
Yep. What is up, YouTube? Moto Noob coming at you live here from Middletown, Delaware. Heading on my way up north. It is Super Bowl Sunday. And aside from the general manly festivities going on tonight, today for me is maintenance day with the Stryker. Let's see here. I got a full tank of gas and 11,166 miles. I probably put a few hundred miles on this bike since I bought it a few weeks ago, but I figure since, you know, the dealership, when they get used bikes, they don't necessarily do unscheduled maintenance. You know, they'll make sure it's all good, do a function check, make sure it's not going to fall apart on you when you ride off the lot. But outside of that, they don't do unscheduled maintenance checks. So I figured, since I don't know anything about the bike, who the previous owner was, you know, what the hell, let me drop, you know, $100 and do some maintenance. So I went out, I got a couple of spark plugs, I got an air filter, I got a gallon of oil, got a new oil filter, and I'm taking over my friend Bob's house. Bob's been riding for many years, and he's a certified technician and all that stuff. And you know, when I told him I was having difficulty trying to find places to do maintenance, he's like, don't even think about it. He said, just come over to my garage. I have every tool, everything possible known to man that you need in order to, you know, do whatever you need to do to your bike. And I'm like, word. So I am on my way over his place now. In addition to that general maintenance, I'm looking at doing 2 mods if I have time. Mod number 1 is I got the LSC 100A, I believe it is. It's a brake strobe mod. So essentially you hook this up, you put it in between the wiring harness from the ECU and the brake light. And basically what happens is when you hit your foot brake or the hand brake, it'll strobe really fast 4 times, like flash, and then it'll strobe 4 times a little slower flash before it goes to a solid light. So flash, and then steady. Hopefully I'll be able to do a little video right here. And that's what it looks like. That all depends, of course, on if I actually have the opportunity to do that today. One thing I'm really big on is back end visibility. No, I'm not talking about my ass, but when I'm stopped at a light, when any motorcyclist is stopped at a light, their biggest fear is that they're going to get pancaked between the person behind them and the person in front of them. So the more I can do to bring attention to the driver that's pulling up behind me, the better. And that's my whole theory anyway. Oh, of course the truck's going down 896. The other mod that I wanted to do was drilling out the exhaust. So Stryker exhausts, you know, they're nice. They're actually relatively quiet, all things said and done. But you know, as the old adage goes, loud pipes save lives. So I'm trying to get a little more louder exhaust without necessarily, just yet anyway, having to invest in a slip-on. Ooh, I'll get past this guy. Without having to invest in a slip-on. Stay. Good boy. Without having to invest in a slip-on or a full exhaust system just yet. You know, down the road, I'm sure. So what some Stryker owners have been doing is they'll take a 1/2-inch drill bit. The exhaust system on this is a 2-into-2, and it has a relatively good muffler and, you know, dB reducer. So what they'll wind up doing is just going into the muffler back part, and then they'll drill 4 holes, 4 1/2-inch holes, and that kind of opens it up to let a little more volume out, a little more airflow, without necessarily affecting the mixture, any of the back pressure or anything like that. It's strictly a cosmetic and audio change. So that's really what I'm hoping to do today. On that same topic, I guess I just wanted to touch a little bit on maintenance. Maintenance in general. So in my lifetime, I have changed the oil, air filter, and oil filter on a vehicle one time, just once. When I got my Shadow, after I rode it for probably about 2,000 or 3,000 miles, I was getting close to that, magical 25,000 mile number. So I'm like, I might as well. I tell my friends a story about, my dad when he was 16. When I was 16, we were at the house and he called me out and he was like, "Son, I'm going to teach you how to do an oil change." And I'm like, "Oh, Dad, I plan on getting a job that pays me enough to where I can pay other people to do it for me." And he just laughed, and I didn't understand why. And I kind of get it now. And, for the longest while, obviously, I did. I paid other people to do it for me. And now, my truck, it costs $100 to get a synthetic oil change. I try to use every coupon on the face of the earth to bring that down, but, it is what it is. So, with the motorcycle, a motorcycle, even the fuel-injected ones, are still a small machine, essentially. Not so much the fuel-injected ones, but a motorcycle is still a small engine, rather, kind of like a lawnmower. So it's relatively easy to do this type of maintenance. It's not like a car where you got to get underneath the car, like with the whole body. Most of these things, you may need to lay down, but most of them are relatively easy to access. So for a small investment of parts, you can do this yourself really, really easily. So what you'll need is an oil pan, which you can get for like $2 from AutoZone. You definitely want to invest in one of the, if you don't have a socket, go ahead and get a socket set. You can get a really cheap one, maybe $10, if that. And once you get it, you have it forever. Same for most of these tools. The other thing I'd recommend doing is getting an oil, an oil filter bit. It's, a thing about like that. It's meant to fit on the back of an oil filter, because even though for the most part you should be doing these a little more than hand tight, oftentimes whether through friction or just putting them on a little more zealously than you should, they'll be a lot tighter than they should be, so it's kind of hard to get them off with your hand. So this bit fits over the oil filter. You put the wrench on, and it just helps you get a little more leverage to get that off. So you have your oil pan, you have your socket set, you have your oil filter bit. Really the only other thing you need are the parts. So you'll need anywhere from 3 to 4 quarts of oil. Each quart can run you anywhere from, say, $5 to $9. You will need an oil filter, which is probably going to cost about $5 to $9. And then you'll want to get something called a crush washer. And the process is relatively simple. If you literally Google your year, your make, your model of motorcycle, oil change, chances are there's a video. And all you're doing is you're draining out the oil, unscrewing an oil filter, putting the oil filter back on, putting the oil in. I'm really oversimplifying that. Let me say that. There's a lot of kind of little baby steps in between where you want to make sure you put a little oil around the seal of the oil filter just to make sure it makes a good seal. Some folks like pouring a little bit of oil into the oil filters just so it starts and it already has a little bit of oil in there and it's not as harsh on the engine. Making sure that change lanes here. Making sure that you have the right amount of oil go in your engine. And did I mention a crush washer? Yeah, you'll need something called a crush washer too, which basically is a washer that just goes on the bolt that you take out of the oil pan to, it's supposed to be like a disposable part. Helps create a better seal. It's meant to be a little softer metal than the bolt, so when you tighten it up there, it crushes the washer a little bit and makes a better seal. And making sure that doesn't stick onto the bolt or stick onto the frame by the oil pan when you take it off. But outside of that, these are all relatively small things you can do without a checklist. You can do without a major expense. So essentially, for the cost of the oil, and the oil filter, you can do an oil change for about 40 or 50 bucks at most, in about 20 or 30 minutes. You know, it's definitely a great investment of time, and if you're looking to get the most bang for your buck, it's definitely the better investment for your money, because aside from all those materials, plus the profit upcharge, plus labor, you're going to be looking at least 70, 80, 90, 100 bucks to have it done in the dealership. So it just makes sense to learn to do a little bit of small engine maintenance yourself. Well, that's it, guys. I'm going to head out for now. I'm about to go over the St. George Bridge here. And there's Frightland, great place to go in the fall around Halloween. They have a lot of cool stuff going on there, haunted houses and the like, and amusement rides. So if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Absolutely subscribe. Any help you can offer with that will be greatly appreciated. Any word of mouth is too appreciated. Keep a shiny side up, and I will see you next time. Yay for no traffic. Oh, bump. Ooh, that was good. I don't like when that happens. All right.